So, it occurs to Jordan and I that we talk a lot about Micro Four Thirds, especially on the podcast. And we talk about how we really like the system, even in an age where a lot of people are skeptical about its validity. And then it also occurs to me that we don't just talk about it, we actually use it professionally. I mean, the majority of our YouTube channel is shot on the Panasonic GH7, and I use the OM System OM1 cameras and lenses for all my fly fishing work, both photo and video, because I think it's ideal for adventure kind of stuff. So then we figure, well, you know what? We use the system a lot, but we've never done a roundup of our favorite lenses, the best lenses for Micro Four Thirds, like we've done with the other companies. And I also find it interesting that we talk about this system. Sure, there's third-party lenses, but we're also talking about not one, but two major OEM manufacturers. I'm Chris Niccolls. This is PetaPixel. Let's get to our choices. So there's a lot of interesting companies that do make Micro Four Thirds lenses. I mean, companies like Laowa, for example, we've tried some of those. Sigma also did make a lot of lenses, but they've since stopped doing that. And I hope that they maybe come back into the field. And so we're not going to talk about lenses that are no longer in current production. I do want you guys to keep that in mind. But as an interesting side note, if you are looking for some of those excellent Sigma lenses, do you know where you can find them? KH.com. KH.com is an interesting website. We've talked a lot about how they sell a lot of used gear, but did you know that KH.com also sells new gear? And they have things like film, filters, mount adapters, tripods, bags, cases, batteries, power supplies. I mean, there's so much more than just used camera lenses and bodies. On top of that, KH.com also does rentals, they do repairs, they've got lots of expert advice that you can tap into. And the people at KH.com are camera people. They actually have some really interesting articles just about photography in general and the whole point of buying all this gear, which is to make art. You might find that stuff really interesting. So check out KH.com. They are PetaPixel's official pre-owned camera gear partner. Okay, so for our first category, we're going to talk about our favorite wide-angle lens when it comes to Micro Four Thirds. But the fact is, there is so much interesting glass to talk about in this realm. If you like character and you're fine with manual focusing, Laowa's got a lot of really good glass with interesting flare characteristics, really cool formulas. As well, I do really like the Panasonic 12mm f1.4, a nice bright lens, very compact and very sharp. Jordan particularly loves the OM System 8-25 f4. He uses it all the time for our show, and it's a very good landscape lens as well. But our pick is actually going to be this. This is the Panasonic Leica DG Vario 8-18 f2.8-4. This is a beautiful lens, and in fact, I use this so much, I've put a big ding in it here. I dropped it, it took a massive hit, and it's still going strong. They are very rugged. There's a lot of things to like about this lens. I mean, the OM System 7-14 f2.8 Pro, it does give you the light, but it doesn't let you use filters, and I really want to have a filter option when I use this lens for landscapes. We still get that f2.8 at the ultra-wide 8mm range. It's incredibly sharp all the way through, and it's compact enough that I can take it anywhere. Okay, next let's talk about our choice for probably the lens you're going to use the most. This is your general purpose zoom lens. Now there's lots of good options here as well, but the first thing I want to touch on, very interesting, is both OM System and Panasonic make some really nice fast f2.8 Pro zoom. So Panasonic make a 12-35 f2.8, OM System make a really nice 12-40 f2.8 Pro, and these are really nice lenses. But for whatever reason, Jordan and I have actually both never gravitated towards using them very often. They're optically good. You collect a lot of light, which is very important with Micro Four Thirds and its smaller sensor. But at the same time, we both tend to find that when we're using Micro Four Thirds, we want the convenience of having more range and still keeping things really compact, even if it is at the expense of some light. For example, one of my favorite lenses that I've mentioned a lot on the podcast is this right here. This is the OM System 12-100 f4 Pro lens, and it's been very rugged. It's very convenient. It gives me a huge versatile zoom range, but even that is still not my favorite pick. We're going to split the difference because I really love this lens. So again, this is a Leica DG Vario zoom lens from Panasonic. This is their 12-60. As you can see, very compact. It does give me a floating aperture, f2.8-4, so I do get a little bit of extra light in the wide angle range where I might need it, but I'm okay with f4, and I like the convenience and versatility of having this 24-120mm full frame equivalent zoom. The other thing that's really cool, this is also a fantastic macro lens. When I'm out in the field, I really appreciate that extra versatility.
Hey, at the start of this video, Chris mentioned that I also use Micro Four Thirds, and there's some reasons for that, like the very fast readout, oversampled slow motion, but honestly, the biggest one is right in front of me. When Chris was talking about standard zooms, you might notice he didn't bring up one of the most legendary Micro Four Thirds standard zooms, the 10-25 f1.7, and look, it's got a friend. It's got a sister lens, the 25-50 f1.7, and these are two of the nicest video lenses I have ever used. They're very bright, there's almost no breathing, they're almost parfocal, match perfectly in terms of color, and they're still capable of very good autofocus. Sure, you can use these for photography, but if you want to turn a Micro Four Thirds camera into a cinematic powerhouse, there, I used that word, these are great options for doing that, and the depth of field at f1.7 is actually going to get you very similar to what a full frame camera can deliver. It's because of these that I'm still shooting on Micro Four Thirds most days.
Okay, our next category, we want to pick our favorite normal prime lens, okay? This is just a great general purpose tool. They let in a lot of light. They're typically very sharp and very compact. And these will all give you around that 50mm full frame equivalent. So, there are a lot of choices, and again, you can go Panasonic lenses on OM system bodies or vice versa. In this category, there's really no downside. There's a lot of good choices out there, but a lot of them are actually getting pretty old, and they're starting to show their age. A lot of these lenses were released when the systems were first brought out. So there's a plethora of choices here, from the really adorable Panasonic 20mm f1.7 version 2, almost a pancake lens, somewhat older lenses like the OM system 25mm f1.8 or the Panasonic 25mm f1.7. Those are both very affordable, which is nice. They do also make a very interesting lens, OM system 25mm f1.2. Now, this is definitely a very expensive lens. You'd think it'd be a premium lens, but honestly, we found it had a little bit of bokeh, and we didn't love the bokeh out of it, so not our first pick. But our top picks from both Panasonic and OM system are really going to be the 1.4 glass. So, Leica DG does make a really nice Summilux 25mm f1.4, a great lens, but our favorite is actually from OM system, and it's this little guy right here. So this is a 20mm f1.4, super compact, really easy to take around. This is part of their Pro series, and although it's a very basic looking, unassuming lens, it's actually optically near perfect. This is a fantastic choice to get a lot of light and get incredibly sharp results. Okay, so next up is going to be our pick for our favorite portrait-specific lens. Now, this could be a zoom. I mean, both Panasonic and OM system make some really nice f2.8 zooms that cover a general portrait telephoto range, and they're fine for that, but I really do feel with portraiture, I want to get that shallow depth of field look more so I'm going to look at a prime. And this is where Jordan and I are going to disagree. So I'm going to mention both lenses that we really like. Okay, so Jordan's favorite lens, it's an oldie, but it's a goodie. It's the OM system 75mm f1.8. Now, this is definitely more of a specialized lens because it's giving you that 150mm full frame equivalent. It's fantastic for head and shoulders portraits, really nice for candid work if you want to keep your distance. And if you have this space and you can do full body portraits, it gives you a really nice stark separation from a busy background. But my pick is going to be something more conventional. This is the Leica DG 42.5mm f1.2. This gives me that more general purpose 85mm focal length equivalent in full frame that I love for portraiture. I like it for head and shoulders. I like it for group shots. I like it for full body shots. And with that light gathering capability, I can not only get nice fast shutter speeds, but also still get that very shallow depth of field look. This is a fantastic lens, and you might be seeing a pattern here with our picks when it comes to Panasonic glass. Okay, now we're going to get into the extreme telephoto lenses. We're first going to talk about our favorite telephoto prime lens. We're talking about sports, action, and wildlife. And before we get into our choices, I really do think this is where Micro Four Thirds has an interesting advantage. Yes, you're giving up some light gathering, smaller sensor, I get all that. But what you gain is excellent telephoto reach, good autofocus performance, and all with a very compact size. And this is something that I know that myself and a lot of other Micro Four Thirds shooters really appreciate having. So One lens that I want to mention here, it's the Panasonic Leica DG 200mm f2.8. So we talked about this pattern that we're seeing. A lot of the Panasonic lenses that we really love do tend to be the Leica partnership lenses. They're made with really interesting optical formulas, they're made to tighter tolerances, and they do tend to give you the best optical quality in the Panasonic lines, and this is no exception. This gives us that 400mm full frame equivalent f2.8 aperture, giving this a depth of field that you kind of expect out of a 400mm 5.6. It's very sharp. The only thing it doesn't really do for video and manual focusing, the focus by wire on this lens is a little bit slow, but autofocus performance is great. This is an awesome lens with a very strange and very imposing hood design. But my favorite choice is going to be from OM System, and I do feel like OM System as a company has made a real effort to specialize and make fantastic lenses specifically for wildlife shooters, and that's where they're finding a lot of their market, and I think that's a great thing. So my choice for my favorite wildlife or sports kind of telephoto prime lens, it's the OM System 300mm f4 Pro series lens. I wish I had one. It's a great lens. Every time we've been able to review it, we've loved the optical performance. It's actually not much bigger than that Panasonic 200mm f2.8. You lose a little bit of light, but you're getting that 600mm equivalent, and optically it's just basically perfect. It's a fantastic option for anybody who wants compact telephoto reach. All right, but let's get into the far more versatile telephoto zoom lens. These are lenses you can use for portrait work, event photography, sports action, journalism, and wildlife. And there's a big range here. You know, a lot of these lenses are going to be 100 to 400, 75 to 300, even 150 to 600, and they're all nice options, but they do tend to have slower f6.3 apertures at the long end. And that's where you're going to use these lenses, and that's where it starts to hurt a little bit, having that smaller sensor as well. So we're going to go a little bit brighter aperture and a little bit more upscale. You do have excellent choices like the Panasonic, again, 35 to 100 f2.8, very sharp lens. I really like the OM System 40 to 150 f2.8 because it gets you into that extra telephoto reach and you're still getting that fast aperture. But if you really want to shoot sports action and wildlife, you might want something longer. And so that brings us to one choice, the ultimate choice. It gives us a lot of light, but it really hurts the wallet. It's this right here. It's the OM System 150 to 400 f4.5. Just a beautiful lens. Yes, you're paying a lot of money, but this is on par with what you would buy from Nikon or Canon or Sony when it comes to high-end wildlife and sports lenses. Incredibly rugged, very compact for the range that it gives you, and it most importantly has a built-in 1.25 times teleconverter. I mean, with that teleconverter, you're getting 1,000mm full frame equivalent reach. You're still gathering a nice amount of light. This really is the creme de la creme when it comes to Micro Four Thirds telephoto performance. There's a big waiting list for this lens. It is very expensive, but if you're really dedicated to wildlife photography and you like the compact nature of the Micro Four Thirds system, this is the lens to get. It's actually so easy to carry around. So Micro Four Thirds is kind of a unique system when you get into it because there are so many options considering that you can mix and match between the two brands. And whether you choose to do that or not, you still have so many good lens options in either system. And again, you do have a lot of third-party options as well. Getting into Micro Four Thirds, I think this is very important. Everybody likes to focus on the sensors being small, absolutely. And there are certainly issues and downsides to that, but lens quality, lens sharpness, lens performance, design is also an essential part of the image quality and image making process that I think a lot of people discount. The fact of the matter is, both Panasonic, especially with their Leica formulations, and OM System make stunningly beautiful lenses across many different ranges, and on top of that are very compact, very easy to carry, and in some cases expensive, in some cases quite affordable. You've got a lot to choose from, and hopefully this video helps you guys narrow down those choices. Hey, so as always, we really appreciate you guys sticking with us here. Do leave your comments below. Let us know if you have any of your favorite lenses in Micro Four Thirds or anything else that you want to share. We always appreciate that. Please do check out the PetaPixel podcast. It's on this exact same channel, or you can listen to it on all your favorite podcasting apps. Now, if you don't like all those pesky YouTube ads that show up in the video, well, you can sort that out with a YouTube membership. If you don't like the mid-roll ads that we put in our videos, well, we do have chapter marks. There's ways to work around it. But if you don't like ads when you're navigating PetaPixel.com, there is a good solution there. Sign up for a PetaPixel Pro membership. This way you can navigate PetaPixel.com ads-free, and there are other bonuses and benefits to having that membership. And we're going to add a lot more in 2025. So definitely check that out. That might be something you really want to get into. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon with more on PetaPixel.